the numbers, right? They hear we're the #1 fastest growing weight loss and fitness platform in North America. That's true. We are number what?
One.
Number what?
One.
We are number one. The growth curve over the last couple years has been crazy. And when I say crazy, I mean crazy. It's been insane to watch. People hear the numbers, right? Last year we passed, have you guys ever heard of those companies? I think it's called like Jenny Craig or something like that, or Nutrisystem. You guys, do they have those things out here in Colorado, right? It's crazy to think last year we passed some of the biggest weight loss companies, diet companies in the world. And we are a company now that came out of, what seems nowhere, although it's been about 8 years in the making, really transforming a lot of bodies. So people hear the numbers, right? They hear the growth, they hear the number of people. You watch the video, nearly 1.5 million people joined our challenge last year alone. How many guys would agree 1.5 million is a lot of people, all right? We've literally helped, over the last couple years, millions of people lose millions of pounds. When you hear those stats, right, millions of people lose what?
Millions of pounds.
That's a lot of weight. I have no idea where it goes, but it's gone, right? They're stats that we're proud of. And people meet myself, Nick, and Ryan. There's 3 co-founders that started the company. And I guess you could say I'm one of 3 people that has been with this company since it was an idea. How many of you guys have ever had a good idea before? How many of you guys have ever taken a shower before? We all have good ideas, right? But to be able to see an idea become not just a company, but what is really turning into a movement is a humbling place to be. It's an exciting place to be. But people hear the stories, and then they meet myself, Nick, and Ryan. The first observation is, these guys are kind of young, right? And they assume we came from some business background or business pedigree or some long line of successful entrepreneurs. Just so I can kind of get an idea who's in the room here today, how many of you, prior to getting involved in ViSalus, or if you're here for the first time, were already self-employed, entrepreneurial, small business owners? How many of you would this be like your first big leap into anything business-oriented, entrepreneurship? You guys, your hands way up, hands way up. Yeah, that's the majority of the room. Give these people a big round of applause for being here. So if you can imagine growing up in an environment that was entrepreneurial, right? All about business, all about success. The environment that I grew up in would be way on the other side of the spectrum, okay? I grew up in an ultra-conservative family. I'll give you a quick glimpse on what I mean by conservative. My mom was a principal. My dad was a cop. Not meant to be a joke, but laugh at my pain. I appreciate that, right? So a principal and a cop as parents, when I say in the box, I mean way in the box, right? I remember being really young. I think most people, when they're young, when you grow up, you want to be successful. How many of you guys can remember being, at a young age, you knew when you grew up you wanted to be successful, right? By a show of hands. I don't think there's many kids that say, when I grow up, Darren, I want to be poor, right? Or, I don't think that's an aspiration of most young people out there. When we're young, we want to grow up and become what? Successful. And in at least my environment, some of you guys may be able to relate, in my environment, I got taught at a really young age that success would be determined by how smart you were or the kind of grades you brought home. Did anybody grow up in a household where grades were really stressed, right? Maybe not everybody, but that was what I was taught growing up. And I took that to an extreme. I followed that to a T because I wanted to grow up and become what? Successful. When I say to a T, I mean an extreme. I can still walk into my elementary school out in Southern California and see my name on a plaque as the outstanding 6th grader, okay? I can still go to my high school and see my name on a plaque as the student body president, right? I graduated there with a 4.2 GPA. I went to one of the top 6 universities in the United States down in San Diego. I have degrees in political science, emphasis in public law, and a minor in psychology. I graduated there cum laude, and I did it in a total of 3 years.
All right.
You say, wow. I say, why? And I say that half joking, but half serious. I remember I was 19. I was a freshman in college. Someone stopped me in the middle of my tracks one day, and they said, Blake, just curious, why are you doing all of this? Why are you striving, stressing to overachieve, to bring the GPA, to build the resume, to get the letter of recommendation? Why are you going to such an extreme, right, to get the grades, to get the resume, to follow that path? And I remember this very distinctly, because when someone stopped me one day at 19 years old and asked me that question, why I was doing that, the only answer that I could give at that time is that's what I thought I was supposed to do. You know, it's interesting. At this stage in my career, I guess, I get to meet a lot of people. Probably met 30,000 people over the last 4 weeks all over North America. And I know not all of you guys can relate to maybe growing up in the box. Maybe a lot of you didn't put the energy into the academics like I did. But you know what? I meet a lot of people today that can relate to, even to this date, today. There's still people waking up every day, going through routines, going through motions, because still to this day, they think that's what they're supposed to do. Not what they want to do. Not what they're passionate about. You know, not what they when they were this big and they were growing up to be successful, thought that this would be it, right? Is this it? I meet a lot of people. How many of you guys know people that sometimes get stuck in routines, right, every single day? Days go by, months go by, years. What year are we in right now, right? Is it just me, or does every year get faster than the last? Anybody else have that problem, right? You guys, I was just fortunate that at a young age, someone stopped me in my tracks and got me asking the question, why? I got put in an environment, I got introduced to this style of marketing around that time, and I started to realize that there was another way. Right? I've met a lot of successful entrepreneurs. By the way, how many of you guys have realized that entrepreneurs tend to think a lot differently than everybody else? They think way differently. You talk to the average person, they're constantly giving you advice on what not to do, right? What won't work. You talk to an entrepreneur, they give you advice on what to do. They focus on what will work. You talk to the average person, they're fixated on that's not possible. You talk to a successful entrepreneur, they focus on what is possible. It's an entirely different mindset. And you guys, parents in the room, you'll probably agree with me on this one. How many of you would agree you become like those you surround yourself with? That's my story. 0 to 18 years old, an environment thought one thing. It was, you got to be smart to be rich. Right? 19 years old, totally different environment, totally different perspective. And I started to realize a lot of the things that I thought were true weren't even true. How many of you guys have met a really, really highly intelligent, educated, broke person? How many of you have ever met a really dumb, rich person, right? No pointing in the back of the room, okay? It's not even true. The things that we operate every day, a lot of it isn't even true. And I put myself in that environment. You can only be in that for so long before you learn a thing or two. It starts to rub off, and ultimately that led me to become successful at a really young age, and ultimately to create Visalis 8 years ago. Matter of fact, coming up March 5th will be our 8-year birthday. Since 8 years ago, myself, Nick, and Ryan, we put together the core values. Visalis, you heard my partner in the video say, means literally life, health, prosperity. We wanted to create a community that was about rich experiences, genuine relationships. Creating that environment that could lift people up, not smash people down. People have too many people out there, guys, trying to smash people down. Let's create an environment that lifts people up, right? Let's create experiences that are those lasting memories. And let's doing it by making people realize that health needs to be a priority. Now, I know intellectually, if I were to ask all of you guys, hey, is your health a priority? Most of you guys would say, yeah.